Hi guys, welcome back to Elizabeth Ann Reads. I'm Anne, and today I just want to give you just kind of a quick little update and then talk about some of the books I've read recently. I haven't been around much on BookTube lately for a variety of reasons, but mostly November just was not a great reading month for me. I didn't read a ton, and I wasn't super enthralled with most of what I was reading, and I was really distracted. I was having trouble focusing on reading, and yeah, so I just didn't. I have decided as I was thinking about it and what I wanted to do and what the future of this channel was going to look like, I don't want to quit doing BookTube. I really do enjoy being here and interacting with you guys that are so faithful to watch and comment, and I really appreciate you. And but I don't want to just talk when I have nothing to talk about. So my uploads are not probably going to be real consistent because I don't want to make content just for the sake of making content. But when I have something I feel like talking about or to have something I want to add to the conversation that's going on, then I'll make a video. So I'll try and be around at least a couple times a month still. And I'll be here. I'll be watching your guys' videos. So I'll be involved, but I don't know how consistent my video making is going to be. But who knows? I have no idea what's happening in life, as is true for pretty much everyone right now. So yeah. But today I have 5 books I want to talk about because they're 5 new releases, and evidently I read all the new releases now because that's a new thing for me. Okay, that's not totally accurate. 3 of these are parts of series that I had pre-ordered, and the other 2 were new releases. And since they're new releases, since they're books that I've seen floating around BookTube that people are talking about, it's on your radar of reading, I thought I would share my thoughts. And yeah, these are all new releases within the last 2 months, I think, maybe a little longer on a couple of them. But in general, they're all very, very new. So let's talk first about the 3 sequels that I read. Spoiler alert, I didn't love any of them. So I didn't hate any of them either. Mostly. But anyway, okay, let's just start. So the first one I want to talk about is Keeper of the Lost Cities Unlocked. This is book 8.5 in the Keeper of the Lost Cities series. And I knew this wasn't going to be a standard novel in the series because of the 8.5. I knew it contained like a novella and then some other stuff. So keep that in mind, that this is not a full-on novel as part of the series. So there is a novella in the last 200 or so pages of the book. Here, let me show you. This is where the novella starts. So just this last chunk is the novella. And that was good. I really enjoyed that novella. It moves the story forward, it answers some questions, it asks a bunch more questions, and it progresses the story to a point where the next book is going to pick up, I believe. This part of the book I was less a fan of. Not because it's not good information, but I don't think this was the right context for it. Basically, the rest of the book gives you like background information. It gives you like government files on the characters. I'm not telling you what the series is about, huh? Hopefully most of you know this is a middle grade series that follows a girl, Sophie, who finds out very early on in the first book that she's not actually human, she's an elf. And so this goes into the elven world and all the bad things that are happening, and she and her friends have to save the world, basically. It's a lot more complex than that. And it's a great series that I highly recommend. But the first 500 or so pages of this book was just like, it was government files and medical records and all this stuff that's fun background information, but would have made a better like special edition book, like a coffee table style book with more illustrations. There are some illustrations in here, but like drawings and illustrations, and just something that's really fun to look at when you want to delve into the history of the world more. Reading through this, I felt like I was reading a 500-page synopsis of a series that I've already read. And I didn't enjoy that. So I don't think it's bad. I just don't think this was the right format for it. But I do recommend the novella. So if it's been a while since you've read the series and you want to catch up, kind of refresh your mind, this may be a great way to do it. If you remember the series pretty well, I would just skip to the novella and just read the novella. Next up, we have another middle grade fantasy. And that was Hollowpox, The Hunt for Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend. This is book 3 in the Nevermore series. I really struggled with this book for a variety of reasons. Um, but I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it nearly as much as the first two. Um, and I don't know, I do want to give a little disclaimer that I read this the first week of November. And if you're in the US, you know that's when election stuff was happening, and I was very distracted, and I was having a hard time focusing on anything. And everything I was reading felt very political. So I'm not sure if this book is actually very political, or if that's just the mindset I was in at the time I read it. But everything about this felt political to me. And it just, I don't know. There was some stuff in there that I really didn't like. It was slow. It took a long time to get into the plot and where we were going. And then when it got there, I didn't enjoy the plot. It feels like a side quest. Like, it doesn't feel like it's a necessary story for the rest of the series, or for where the series is going. It felt like a little side quest. That being said, the ending does build up to a pretty critical plot point. So it's not like you can just skip this, because there is something critical that happens at the end that's necessary to know. And that was good. Honestly, this book would have just sat at 3 stars, as it was fine. The ending I thought was super, super strong. So that bumped it up to a 4 for me. But it took way too long to get there, and I was bored for a lot of it, which made me sad, because I really wanted to love this. But just the timing of this book felt really strange to me. Not only very political, but if you'll notice, Hollowpox, this whole book is about, like, basically a virus, which is just weird. And especially knowing that the release date for this was delayed, like it was supposed to come out much earlier in the year. So I know this book was done before 2020 happened. So it just, the timing of it seemed so odd to me, and it was not a good fit for when I was reading it. Someday I'll reread the whole series when many more of them are out, and maybe I'll have a totally different opinion on this at that point, but I was not as impressed with this one as I was with the first two. All right, the third sequel I want to talk about is Ready Player 2. This book was not good. When I first finished it, I thought, average, 3 stars, maybe a low 3. But the more I think about it, the more frustrated I get, because it could have been so much better, and it wasn't. So this obviously follows Ready Player 1. This picks up right where Ready Player 1 leaves off. We follow the same characters, and their lives have completely changed because of what happens in Ready Player 1. So they're wealthy. They're kind of in charge of the Oasis, which is the technological, technology, basically, and computers, and, all those things. They control it. Unfortunately, this pretty much just rehashes the same plot, only it does it much worse. The characters are much less likable. The puzzles that they have to solve to fix what has gone wrong are much less intriguing, and there was much less process, it felt like. That's one thing I loved about the first book, was that everything took time. And you had these big moments of excitement and adventure when they figured out a clue and were able to, go through this quest and, take the next step in their process. But then there were long sections between those moments of building the story and building the characters. And this lacked that building at all. It just went from clue to clue to clue to clue, and they solved them all instantaneously. And there was some serious issues with just character development and what's not dealt with in the end, issues that aren't resolved or dealt with, or, hey, that was wrong, or, hey, you're a jerk. And it was just let slide. Like, basically, people can be jerks and it's okay in this book. There's no consequences for actions, I guess, for your main characters. And you want to see your main characters grow, and it just felt like that didn't happen at all. In fact, it felt like they all, reverted to even worse characters than they became in the first one. I don't know. The more I think about it, the less a fan I am. So, approach with caution. All right, the other 2 books I want to talk about, I did actually enjoy. The first is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I read The Humans by Matt Haig in October and really loved it. That was my first Matt Haig, and so I picked up this one. This follows a girl whose name I can't remember. Is it Nina? Nora. who is not real happy in her life. Her life hasn't gone the way she wanted it to. So she has kind of given up on life. She ends up in this kind of limbo between life and death, and she ends up in the Midnight Library. And in this library, she's given the chance to live different lives, like her own life if she had made different choices, basically. If she had pursued swimming instead of quitting in high school, if she had stayed in the band that she quit, if she had, said yes to this guy who asked her out on a date instead of no, like how life would have turned out given one little change somewhere along the way. I thought this was really intriguing. I've talked about this before. I love books that make me think a little differently, like that take a slightly different perspective, and so I have to adjust my way of thinking and really think through, like, what do I think about this? What's my opinion on this if life was like this? Or, yeah, kind of that scenario. So I really loved this idea of living these different lives, seeing the benefits, seeing, like, what's good, what's bad about these different things. And just the idea that even when you find your perfect life, it's not perfect. And making the best of the life that you have. I thought there were some really good kind of underlying messages in this book about living your best life. And making choices to get where you want to be. And taking responsibility for your own life, I guess. Anyway, I thought it was really good. It was an easy, quick read. I really enjoyed it. The last book I want to talk about is Piranesi by Susanna Clark. This was a weird little book, and I loved it. It's hard to talk about because you don't want to know too much going into it, so I'm not going to say a whole lot about it, other than I highly recommend it. We follow a character who is stuck in this labyrinth, kind of a house. It's not really a house, it's a structure, I guess. He goes from hall to hall to hall and, kind of maps out this massive, massive place that he'll never see all of or discover all of. And it's just kind of his journals, in a sense. And then there's one other character that he refers to as the Other that shows up occasionally, but is just kind of his journey of discovery. And you start to get hints of something's not right, what's going on, this isn't what it appears to be, type thing. But yeah, I'm not going to say much about it. Just read it. It is short. It's just over 200 pages, I think. But it reads, you want to read it kind of slowly. You want to kind of take your time and absorb it as you go. So it doesn't read super quick, at least for me it didn't. But it is very short. So it still reads fairly quickly. Anyway, let me know your thoughts if you've read any of these books. I would love to discuss them with you. So that is it for today. Thank you for watching.